Today's episode is a production of Blue Ram Media Group, LLC, and Private Officer International, the voice of the frontline protector. Good morning, everyone. I want to welcome you to today's edition of the Private Officer Beat Radio. Of course, a production of Blue Ram Media Group, LLC, and Private Officer International. Merry Christmas, a little belated to each and every one of you. I really do hope that you all had a chance to just kick back, have some R&R with family and friends, enjoy that Christmas holiday. I hope that you all were blessed and that you had a chance to go out to a Christmas service at your church or synagogue or wherever you go for service. And most of all, I really just hope that you had just a great family time. Many of us had to work, of course, when you're in private security, law enforcement, or public safety, and unfortunately, weekends and holidays, those are the hours that we have to work. Somebody's got to do it. Somebody's got to be protecting and serving and keeping the community safe, and many of you did. So thank you. Let me really be honest with you. Most people don't consider those working these long hours or holiday hours, but from the bottom of my heart, thank all of you for doing so. Today in the radio program, we're going to be talking a little bit more about what's coming up in the new year, what to expect. We do have some breaking news, of course, and we have unfortunate news of officers being killed in the line of duty. Early within the next week to 10 days, we'll have the final officer down count from 2022, and I can tell you that the numbers are pretty staggering. I just looked at the officer down report for law enforcement this year. The majority, unfortunately, died of COVID-related illnesses, but there were a high number of homicides with law enforcement as well, just as there was with private security. I ran across a couple of interesting news articles which actually said exactly what I've been talking about in regards to the use of technology for the private security sector as well as law enforcement. And we'll be telling you today about real-time crime centers and how POI and our initiative with tying in technology with physical security is working and how it will continue to work and the opportunities that your business will have to be involved in this as well. We'll also give you an update today on the roundtables that we've talked about previously, getting together with law enforcement and how that all is coming together, and upcoming training events and other great things that we have scheduled for 2023. As I was telling a friend of mine last week, we can schedule and we can announce all sorts of training events and meetings and we can host a whole bunch of great stuff for the security industry. But unfortunately, if they don't respond back, then the sad thing is we can't force people to attend. We can't force people to let their coworkers or their bosses know. We can't force companies to want to be involved, and that's really the tragic side to the story. But I'd rather not dwell on that. I know how the field of security works. I know how some companies still are stuck in the 1960s, and they don't want to step out of it. The unfortunate thing is that they don't really care about the injuries and the deaths to security officers. They just care about the income. It's a staffing system for the most part. People still are stuck in that old mentality of they need a body, we're going to send them a body, just like if we were a staffing company and they need 3 laborers in that warehouse for the weekend, we're going to send them 3 laborers. We don't care about anything else. We're not checking into safety hazards. We're not checking into whether or not they have the right PPE. We're just going to send them 3 bodies. That's what they ask for a certain amount of hours, and we're going to charge them a certain rate per hour per man. And unfortunately, with the security industry, you just can't do that anymore because there's a huge safety issue. And everyone's life is at jeopardy. The company's at jeopardy of civil responsibility and civil litigation. Unfortunately, many don't really want to think about that, don't care about that. They often say that's what insurance is for, and let's just move on. But anyway, we do have a lot to talk about on this edition of the Private Officer Beat Radio. And then, of course, we have New Year's coming up just in a few days. And that is actually New Year's Eve into New Year's Day is one of those times in that 24-hour period when many security officers are injured and killed in the line of duty. And it's an unfortunate way to start off a new year, but every year it seems to be a death trap for security because they're working at parties and clubs and bars and places where people are intoxicated and high these days. Many weapons are involved, and it turns into tragedy for them. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to really kick this program off this week with what's happening, some things that I really wanted to talk about, and, of course, all of the breaking news and so much more. You're listening to the voice of the Frontline Protector, Private Officer Beat Radio. We'll be right back.
The Federal Aviation Administration wants you to fly your drone responsibly. Avoid flying your drone near other aircraft, especially near airports. Fly your drone below 400 feet. Always keep your drone in sight. If you see a safety issue involving drones, contact local law enforcement immediately. Fly smart. Fly safe. Have fun.
My wife and I are spending more time on our computer.
It's so convenient.
Yeah, but there can be a downside.
Right, like buying fake drugs being sold over the internet.
Yeah, we learned the hard way.
At the emergency room.
Never buy prescription or over-the-counter drugs online from unknown or unlicensed sources, as they are often dangerous fakes. Counterfeits hurt, but you have the power to stop them. Go to www.ncpc.org/getreal. Brought to you by the National Crime Prevention Council and the Bureau of Justice Assistance, U.S. Department of Justice.
When we're responding to emergency runs, we need everybody's help to get there as fast as we can. So when you see the lights, move to the right.
Welcome back to the Private Officer Beat Radio. Glad that you're joining us today. I know a lot of people stream it after the show is over. Some of you download the program onto your devices and listen to it sometimes when you're driving. I've heard a number of folks say that. Also, later on when you have time, you download it and then listen as you can. We are so happy to have partnered with a distributor where our program is distributed now to 27 different sites, including Apple, iTunes, and iHeartRadio, Amazon, and a number of other platforms, wherever you can get your music, your podcasts, or listen to live radio shows such as the Private Officer Beat Radio. Yes, we are live. We're an actual radio show. We're a sponsored show. So much different than a podcast that's pre-recorded, generally doesn't have any marketing or advertising behind it. And but anyways, so I really appreciate all of you who do that. Over the last 6+ months, we have put out the call several times for video. If you wear body cameras, have dash cams, own a private security company, and you train and you tape your training, we're asking that you send that video to us at helpdesk@privateofficer.com. Now, a couple of months ago, a Midwest security company owner of a small company, he piped up and responded to us, "Oh, you guys are going to get in trouble. You can't use other people's videos. You can't use video from a client. That's privileged.
we could get sued, you could get sued, you're going to get the security guard sued, you can't use any of this video, it's not public. That's not true. First of all, any video recorded even at your client is owned by you, not the client, unless you have a contract specifically with the client that says all video recorded by dash cam or body cam is the property of XYZ client, then it's your property, your video. And just like anyone else who is recording legally, wherever the public has no expectation of privacy, and that includes on private property, in the mall, the shopping center, in the parking lot of your business that you're patrolling, that's all within the scope of the public having no expectation of privacy. And the customer, the client, nobody owns it but the person recording it. Now that would be different if you're recording somebody in the hospital room or in the bathroom. Yeah, that's not allowed. Our attorneys have looked at this numerous times, just like other entities and TV shows that have video out there showing what happened in such and such a date and the police chases and so forth. Anything released to the public, anything that's on public domain can be used as a news item or in a news item. And we have a news department. We are a bona fide news source, so we can use it. And we can use any video legally obtained for that purpose. And our attorneys will continue to review the videos that are sent in. So if you have dash camera, if you have body camera of you taking a suspect down, of you patrolling in a vehicle or on foot, of you working a special event, we really, really, really need your help in sending that video to us, because we're trying to paint a bigger, better picture for the security industry. And what better way to do it than to show them what's really happening on body camera, on dash camera. And that's why body cameras have become so valuable to the image of law enforcement, because now you can see this is what really happened, not what they're saying happened, not what the bad guy wants you to think happened, not what the media is posting, just a little clip and you're not seeing the whole thing. Here is the whole picture. Look at what security really is doing. That's why today is so important that we're beginning this 3-part series showing what private security really is doing and private law enforcement, and how important it is and why it's so important and why they are the link in that chain, overall chain of keeping the world safe. Please do us a favor. If you have some images, if you have some video, and you're not sure if you should give it to us or whatever, helpdesk@privateofficer.com. One of our management or myself will definitely respond to you right away. And let me tell you, we will give you all props. We will give you all credit. This is not anything to do with us getting the credit. You will get the credit. You will be highlighted. And if you own a private security company and you want to be spotlighted in our programs, in our radio shows, in our digital magazine, in our newsletters, contact helpdesk@privateofficer.com. We're all about highlighting, spotlighting private security. But if you stay silent, if you stay in the background, if you don't notify us of what's happening, of course, we can't put this out to all of our contacts in the media and our whole array of platforms that we use. And we have a very large following, and it grows and grows and grows every year. They don't all join. They don't all become members of POI. I wish they did. But we can put something out there and make this go viral. Helpdesk@privateofficer.com. We're going to take another quick break. I got a lot of news to share with you. Of course, we're going to be talking about that first link, about the people in the security business. You're listening to Private Officer Beat Radio, a production of Blue Ram Media Group, LLC, and Private Officer International, and the voice of the frontline protector.
We kind of just grew up together. He got his license when he was 16. We were going to the beach, and Luke was driving. I was in the passenger seat, and all of a sudden, I don't remember anything. I wasn't conscious for it. We got hit by a drunk driver. I feel like I knew right away that it was never going to be the same. I don't know. The doctors, they were telling me I was so lucky to be alive. When I found out that he died on impact, I didn't really feel lucky. And sometimes I still don't. Drinking and driving is completely unnecessary, and I think it's selfish if you do it. It's not worth taking that risk, because you never know what's going to happen. I met Luke.
My sister Katie and I are bargain hunters. But my sister Kelly showed me an article that made me change a really bad habit. I used to buy bargain knockoffs on the street. You mean counterfeit merchandise? And this can lead to more Americans losing their jobs. So, no more buying fakes, right? Right, just honest bargain hunting.
Counterfeits hurt, but you have the power to stop them. Go to www.ncpc.org/getreal. Brought to you by the National Crime Prevention Council and the Bureau of Justice Assistance, U.S. Department of Justice.
Biddeford 113.
Biddeford, go ahead.
113, could you respond to Pool Street, the area of UNE? Have a report of a motor vehicle crash. 2 vehicles head-on. Multiple PI. Great.
Okay, 10-4, I'll be en route.
Do you know what to do when you hear an emergency vehicle approaching? Slow down. Signal. Move to the right as far as you can. Stop when it's safe to do so. It's a law. Remember to pull to the right for sirens and lights. Help save a life.
This morning we do have breaking news coming into our office during the overnight hours. We have at least 3 security officers dead, 16 injured during the last 7 days. We know that 2 of those security officers died of gunfire, including 1 in the last 24 hours in Los Angeles. The unarmed security officer was patrolling an off-campus USC campus housing apartment when he tried to escort a trespasser off the property. The man pulled a gun and fired multiple times. We have obtained some crime scene photos. It shows at least 7 markers indicating shells left behind. Right now, police do not have anyone in custody. Coming out of Buffalo, we've been notified that an on-duty security officer patrolling during a blizzard has been killed in a traffic fatality. We do not have any other information. His name has not been released. Currently, that area has blizzard conditions and has had at least 3 feet of snow in some areas. Coming out of another area of our country, Florida, and we have very few details on this. A security officer was shot and killed at a nightclub. 16 security officers, as I said, have been shot that we know of. We are still compiling data from 2022. We know that this has been a horrific year for violence against security officers and a high number of security officer deaths. I hope to get that to you within the next week. This has been breaking news from the Private Officer Beat Radio.
Welcome back to the Private Officer Beat Radio. The voice of the frontline protector. You know, we've been using that moniker or that tagline for about 10 years now. And every time I say it, I get a little tingle. The voice of the frontline When we came up with that, we wanted it
to be inclusive of all people on the front line working to protect our country, our nation, from sea to shining sea. And that includes private security. Starting this week, we're going to be doing a 3-part series about the value of private security. In today's radio show, I'm going to start with part 1, the value of its people, which are so often undervalued, underrated, taken advantage of by both employer and client, as well as the bad guy. Over the next 3 weeks, we'll talk about the value of private security, starting off with its people. Without the people, property would be stolen. People would be hurt or killed. Catastrophes would occur. Terrorists would enter our businesses, our secured facilities, and God only knows what would happen. Yes, it's that serious. And in this 3-part series, you'll get to see the whole picture of the value of private security, starting this week with its people. In part 2, we'll talk about its service. All the different services provided by private security and private law enforcement. We need to include them as well. Without those services, without that physical security and that electronic security, the cameras, and all of the technology involved these days in keeping our world secure, catastrophe, doomsday, and I'm not joking, would occur. Think about that for a moment. It's that serious. And in part 3, we're going to be talking about how we are a link in the overall safety of the world. Not just some little company, not just some little hole-in-the-wall place, not some little business in some city somewhere in the U.S., but we are that link, the link. You see, there's lots of links in keeping people safe. If you've ever taken a first aid, CPR, AED class, you know there's a link to keeping a person alive. You only have a few seconds when somebody's down and in full cardiac arrest to get pumping on their chest and giving them respirations or they're not going to live. And then we got to get 911 involved. We got to get a higher level of medical service there as quickly as possible. We can pump on the chest, blow into the air. We could do all of that, but not for very long. Nobody does anything as a lone ranger. So we got to get medical personnel, paramedics, EMTs, fire departments there to help save a life. And jointly, we all contribute to bringing that person back to life. And in security, it's the same way. The cops can't do it all by themselves. The technology used by law enforcement is just one piece of the puzzle. They can't do it all by themselves. Private security can't do it all by themselves. Business owners can't keep themselves secure all by themselves. But it's the various links that make the chain stronger. Part 1, the people. Part 2, the service. Part 3, the link to keeping the world safe. I'm really excited to bring this forward. I've been working on it for a little bit. With me, things kind of sit in the head, and I begin thinking about different parts to that. topic or subject, much like a preacher, an evangelist, they do the same thing. And so now I've got all the pieces, and now I'm putting together all the various parts for each segment, each week. And I'm really excited. And I hope this does inform, enlighten. This is really a true call to action. A call to action to get up and understand the value of private security. Please tell your coworkers, tell your managers, supervisors, shout it from the rooftop. If they ever had to hear a message, it's this one. The links to the safety of the world, or to the world's safety, really. It's that big. Later on today, at the bottom of this program, we'll be given really a message. We'll be giving you a message. Part 1, the people. The link to the safety of the world, the value of private security. Coming up, we told you over the last few weeks about the roundtables. Well, I want to give you an update. They're not going too well. We're beginning to send out notices, but we need you. If you're a security company owner, manager, supervisor, we need you to contact helpdesk@privateofficer.com and let us know about your state and the police departments and sheriff's departments if you have any contact, if you know the chief, the captain, the sheriff, because we want to connect with them and get this in every state. Helpdesk@privateofficer.com. We also have upcoming training. We're looking at a number of regional training sites, just like we did earlier this year. It didn't go over so well this year. You know, COVID happened for a couple of years, and that really put us off. But we're going to make that happen in 2023. And we need you, once again, to be involved. You see, I can schedule this training all across the country. I can give you some of the best training that you'll ever have. I can charge you the lowest prices you'll ever see anywhere. I can even give it out free. But unless you participate, unless you see the need, unless you communicate this to other security personnel, it will not be successful. Helpdesk@privateofficer.com. When I come back, I got some news titles, some news headlines. And sadly, 16 security officers were shot in the last 5 days. One was killed. Security officers have been involved in a number of use of force incidents, including one security officer shot a man who fired at him, one shot a man with a hammer, and the other one shot a man who unfortunately was unarmed but verbalized the threat. It's dangerous. It's violent. It's only going to get worse. Why do you need to be part of something like Private Officer International? Need I say more? Check out our news daily blog, Private Officer, breakingnews.blogspot.com. Whew, boy, I'll tell you what, I'm fired up for 2023, but I need you on board. And I do feel like a preacher, and I do feel like I'm up here as an evangelist, really just digging in and begging you, follow me, see the light, because that's how it is. A lot of you don't think that your job's important, but it's extremely important. We'll be right back. You're listening to the voice of the Frontline Protector. Are you looking for the finest private security officer training in the Charlotte metropolitan area? Do you need PPS qualifications in armed or unarmed training? Or maybe you're over there across the line in South Carolina and you need the SLED training. Well, we've got the right training at the right time for you. Premier Training Academy, located at 5624 Executive Center Drive, Suite 142 in metropolitan Charlotte, North Carolina. Give them a call today, 704-806-4933. They also offer firearms training, personal protection, first aid and CPR, and so much more. Call John at 704-806-4933.
It's out to Hooley for the win.
Hi, I'm Peter Hooley. My mum has always been my biggest fan. She cheered from the bleachers, from the living room, from her hospital bed, until one day she stopped cheering. My mum died of colon cancer at the age of 52. If she had been screened earlier, it could have saved her life.
If you're over 50, get screened today so you can be cheering tomorrow.
I want to turn to some of the breaking news headlines coming into our office. Remember, you can read our breaking news 24/7. It is precise. It is accurate as much as it can be. And it is available to you free 24/7 at privateofficerbreakingnews.blogspot.com. Coming out of San Antonio, Texas, a security officer on patrol was struck head-on by a vehicle when the unnamed security officer exited his vehicle on Honey and East Commerce Street. He discovered the driver of the second vehicle had been shot in the head. He began administering first aid to the female and notified law enforcement. The woman is in critical condition. The security officer was not injured, according to the police report. In Atlanta, Georgia, a number of protesters who are protesting the building of a new training academy have been charged as domestic terrorists. A judge did grant bond Tuesday to the 6 people who face domestic terrorism charges following destruction. This is not the first time that this has occurred. This has been the 3rd or 4th time. They call that area Cop City. They are protesting the deforesting of a area forest where the new training police academy is being built. According to the local state prosecutor, they believe that these charges are warranted. In Harlan County, Kentucky, the school district there recently swore in 6 police officers on their new police force. Police forces at hospitals and schools and companies across the country has been popping up, as I have reported during the last 3 years, as many law enforcement agencies are understaffed or no longer available to respond to private property calls unless they are emergencies. Harlan County said that they are excited about this level of service, and they look forward to working with local law enforcement. Coming out of New Orleans, a police instructor at the New Orleans Police Academy accidentally wounded himself on Wednesday. According to the report, the instructor has 30 years of law enforcement experience. No information as to if this was a firearms qualification, but it did happen at the firing range. According to the report, they do not expect this to be a life-threatening situation. We are seeing more and more incidents involving private security and law enforcement being shot during training. I recently did a study and provided information on one of our radio shows. Please go back if you are interested to find out how many injuries and what type and how they hopefully can be prevented. 2 shoplifters in Uniondale, New York, in Nassau County, pepper sprayed a loss prevention agent at the Nordstroms after they were accused of stealing bottles of perfume. They attacked the security officer and sprayed her with pepper spray. They were able to escape, and they are currently on the run. A maintenance worker checking pipes to see if they were frozen or busted in Grand Prairie, Texas, was shot and killed by a person in an apartment thinking that this was a burglary. The apartment dweller did not look out his window
just assumed it was a burglary, fired, and killed the maintenance man. Cesar Montalego was taken to a hospital and later pronounced dead. This is clearly not an act of self-defense. Police say that they are not only investigating, but that it will be turned over to a grand jury. In Mobile, Alabama, 2 people have been shot during a confrontation inside of a Walmart. This was the third shooting inside of a Walmart during the same 24-hour period. The suspects were able to flee prior to police arriving. Also in the news, a former security officer has filed a federal lawsuit. This happened in L.A., California. She alleges that while working as a security officer at the DHL Express near the airport, that there were several situations that put her in harm's way. When she complained to the security company, American Guard Services, she was told not to say anything. She also says that as a whistleblower, she faced retaliation, and therefore she has filed a federal lawsuit. A former Seneca Valley School security guard in Pennsylvania is accused of sexual assault and porn charges. Police arrested Matthew Cohen, who was a security officer at the time of the incident, and they have charged him with multiple sex counts. He has since been terminated from the school. 2 former Garda World security guards plotted, robbed an armored truck, and then killed a co-worker in Oakland, California. Artemio Torres, 27, has been charged but is on the run, and Akbar Bey, 27, also one of those involved in the theft and murder, has been captured and faces murder charges. Torres is on the run. The FBI, the U.S. Marshals, and other federal and local agencies are currently hunting him down. 16 security officers shot, we just said moments ago. 3 are dead. Violence has substantially increased just in the past 3 years, and there's no end in sight. We are working toward that. We'll be telling you more in this episode and others. We're trying to find ways to prevent such violence, assaults, and deaths of private security and law enforcement. A woman is charged with assault after slapping a security officer and breaking his glasses at a restaurant. This happened in Milford, Connecticut. According to police, the woman got upset when the security officer tried to escort her out. She began assaulting him. A security officer was shot multiple times in Brighton, Alabama. This was on Christmas Eve. Police say that the suspect fled. The security officer is in critical condition. Authorities say that they are investigating and that they are working on some leads. Another security officer was shot at a Walmart in Louisiana. The security officer was attempting to get a trespasser to leave the property when the man turned and shot the security officer in the parking lot. Also in Louisiana, in Hemet, Louisiana, the state fire marshal's office is looking for a suspect who intentionally set a Walmart on fire on Christmas Eve. Video shows him clearly setting fire to the store. No one was injured, but there were 500 customers and employees inside the store at the time of the fire. Also, we have 4 new incidents where power stations have been vandalized in the Northwest. In Pierce County, police and federal agents are looking for suspects who trespass onto the property and damage Tacoma Public Utility substations and Puget Sound energy stations. Police have no suspects, but say this is an active case. A Dallas security officer is one of more than a dozen who have fired their weapon. The security officer shot a man with a hammer who was attacking him. Police say this is still under investigation, but it looks like a self-defense. In Clay County, Indiana, the police department, a new police department has been formed at the Clay Community Schools, another school system who is establishing their own police force. Josh Clark is the new police chief. Most recently, he was a chief deputy with the Clay County Sheriff's Department. The school system said that it was a necessity and that they are happy to have it. In Illinois, a security officer received an award. New Trier High School security officer Johnny Owens was honored with a recognition award. He has been not only a fine example, but he has been involved in several different incidents on campuses where he made the difference. The St. Louis County police officer killed in an apparent murder-suicide. This happened in Lincoln County. According to law enforcement, St. Louis County police officer Robert Woods and another man are both dead, and they say that this was a murder-suicide. An off-duty police officer working security in Bethesda, Maryland, arrested two women after they shoplifted at a store and intentionally drove at him with their vehicle. He was in full police uniform when he tried to stop them, but the women got into a vehicle and then proceeded to try to run him over. Police got into a chase with the suspects down Interstate I-95 and was captured in Howard County. They are facing multiple charges. I told you about a shooting at the Mall of America. This happened just before Christmas in Bloomington, Minnesota. A teenager was shot and killed. Now 5 others, including 2 adults and 3 juveniles, have been arrested in this incident. Police say it looks like a possible gang action. No further information available, although this is not the first shooting there. This is actually, there's been a number of shootings in the last few years. Arlington County, Virginia, the sheriff there says they are ending voluntary cooperation with ICE. The Arlington County Sheriff's Office Sheriff Beth Arthur said her office will no longer recognize any voluntary requests from ICE and will not contact the agency about releases from its facility starting this week. Recently, another county in Virginia, Fairfax County, also determined that it would also not cooperate any longer with ICE. They will obviously process any warrants or legal detainers, but without those, they will not notify ICE. Florida and other states have hit records. TSA says they have hit record numbers of weapons, according to the TSA. As of December the 16th, TSA has stopped 6,301 firearms intercepted at American airports this year, which is more than an 88%. Also, they said more than 88% of them were loaded, and this is a substantial increase in the recovery of weapons. In Texas, a woman pled guilty to shooting a security officer and will serve 20 years in state prison. We have a lot of breaking news day in and day out. It's a valuable resource for you, and it's free. Go to our website at privateofficerbreakingnews.blogspot.com. We're going to be back. I'm going to tell you about the first link in the chain of worldwide security and why security officers themselves are so valuable. You're listening to the voice of the Frontline Protector, a production of Blue Ram Media and Private Officer International. Private Officer Beat Radio will be right back.
a very simple thing. It only takes 2 seconds. We all know we should do it. We all say we do it. But do we? About 35,000 people were killed in motor vehicle accidents last year. More than half were not wearing a seatbelt. A brother, a father, a mother, a best friend. Is it worth it? I lost a sister. Don't let it happen to you and your family. Tell the people you love to buckle up.
Body Armor USA, we've got what it takes to protect you. Whether you're looking for the top quality protective armor or protective clothing, stab-resistant vest or gloves, contact my friend Ben over at Body Armor USA. Give him a call, 516 area code 817-1666. Again, that's area code 516-817-1666. Body Armor USA, we've got what it takes to protect you. No doubt about it.
Slow down.
Slow down and move over.
And move over. When you see lights,
Best. Or reflectors.
please give us some room. Slow down and move over. When you need us,
We've got your back.
you have ours.
You got our back?
You got ours? You got our back? Please, slow down.
And move over.
Through the years, people have asked me, and I myself have wondered many times over, why don't security officers and private law enforcement receive their due? Why aren't they recognized for the valiant things that they do, even in situations when they've risked their lives in true fashion? In active shooter incidents, when they save a life and perform CPR or some heroic method to keep someone alive until further medical personnel can arrive on scene. We have seen time and time again with Private Officer International for almost 20 years now how often this does really occur, but it seldom makes news headlines. And when it does, normally it doesn't mention the security officer's name, or they misidentify what the security officer did that was so heroic or brave. As in the case of a shooting earlier this year, when the security officer intervened during an active shooter situation at a nightclub. Though they mentioned the security officer participating, they never said it was the security officer who defended the victims, who returned fire and took out the shooter. And through the years, I've come up with a number of scenarios and reasons, and I've given these throughout the years. I've talked about it on the radio show. But in recent weeks, I've seen a number of security officers and several private law enforcement officers who are sworn police officers, but they work for a private entity, a school, a hospital, or another company. But that does not make them not a law enforcement officer. They are law enforcement. They're not security officers. But even they do not get their recognition that they deserve. So, in recent weeks, I have scoured through our news stories over the last couple of years. You know, we keep very good logs, and we have breaking news blog that comes out every day. If you don't read it, www.privateofficerbreakingnews.blogspot.com. And, of course, we send out a lot of news alerts throughout the year. But my team and I was able to sit down over the last few weeks and look at some of those news stories where security officers played a key role, and sometimes the only role that really made a true difference at that moment. Because had people waited for law enforcement, had people waited for EMS, they could have been dead. And one of those examples was in Buffalo at a grocery store earlier this year, where a retired Buffalo police officer working as a security officer intervened during an active shooting incident, taking out the shooter and dying while doing it. We have come up with 5 solid reasons why security officers do not get their due. Some of these actually are similar, if not the same, to what we discovered previously in previous times when we've researched it and really just scratch our heads like, why? Why aren't they getting recognized? Why don't they make the headlines? But there are 5 solid reasons why security officers do not receive the credit they deserve. And let me start off with number 1. Now, if you're a manager, supervisor, employer, or company owner, this is really going to tick you off, and that's what I hope that it does. Because the number 1 reason why security, I should have started with number 5, right, and built up to it. I should have left the suspense to last. Number 1 reason why security officers do not receive their due, the credit that they so deserve, is the employer. The employer has failed them miserably. You see, in a major company or even a small company of any type, when an employee is promoted, when they've accomplished something, when they've received a certain certification, oftentimes the employer will announce it in the news. They'll send out a press release, a media release. They'll send out emails to the local press, the newspaper, the TV, and say, hey, Johnny just got his master's certification. You see it all the time, especially in local hometown newspapers. When an employee